How's it going, everybody? This is Coach Bronson, and we're going to talk about recovery, what it is, and 5 things that you can do to improve your recovery after workouts and throughout any activities that you do in your daily life. Okay, let's talk about why recovery is important. What is recovery, and when we talk about doing physical activity and the purpose of the recovery phase of a fitness program, or of what things that you may need to do after you participate. Maybe you go on a hike or you do some yard work or something like that, why it's important. The first thing is understanding that recovery is essentially, the definition of recovery is taking a break. It's really that simple. You do some activity and then you take a break. When we look at the way our body is built, the way that we work as a system, there are different systems within the system of our body, right? We have movement patterns, we have metabolic systems, we have hormone systems. Like, we have all these different functions in our body that perform and do things. When it comes to physical activity, we have movement patterns and we have things that our body does. So if you break down a movement pattern, let's say a squat or a deadlift or the pushing motion of, say, a push-up or a bench press, something like that, okay? The muscles involved in those movements are the system of that movement, okay? So taking a break, recovery, is doing something that is not that thing if you work that thing already. So if I squat on Monday, then my recovery would be doing anything other than a squat again, taking a break from that system of movement, okay? So this can be really complicated when we think about all of the different movements, the different components of fitness, the different metabolic pathways that our bodies use, because we don't want to do any one thing so much that then we get into what we call overtraining. And that is the opposite of recovery. That is where you work a system so much that you no longer get any benefits from doing the work and training that system, but then the performance and the work that's being done actually causes a detriment to the system and it harms the system. Okay? When we talk about physical activity, we're talking about that is injury, chronic issues. Okay? That's where tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, back pain, neck pain, bad knees, all the injuries, acute injuries. That's where you get weak and you break down during an activity, where you tear an ACL, you throw your back out, things like that, okay? Overtraining is bad. Recovery is the biggest tool that we have in our toolbox to prevent overtraining, okay? That's one really big aspect of what recovery is and why it's important. The second thing to think about when it comes to recovery is progress is only made when you're not doing the work. Okay, it's so counterintuitive to hear that, but let's talk about this. There's a concept called supercompensation, and that means that when you do work, you add stress to the body. So when I'm working a system, okay, let's say I'm doing squats. When I do squats, I'm adding stress. I'm at this level. I'm adding stress to the system. The performance of that system for a period of time is going to go down. I've gotten tired. I've worn that system out. Okay, then I need to rest. This is where recovery comes in. I recover for a little bit. And then over time, after my system is recovered, it then comes back to the same level of performance. If I did a good enough amount of work at the beginning and I give it a good enough amount of rest, what's actually going to happen is it's going to come up higher than where I started. So that difference in the increase in performance is called supercompensation. That can only happen if there is rest in between the times that you're working the system. So that's why we don't want to squat every single day. That's why we don't want to go run and do cardio every single day, right? That's why we don't want to do any one thing so much in a week or even in a day that you're just going to wear that system out. And what happens, instead of it coming back up and improving, it just keeps going down and down and down, and you never get the benefit from it. It is very, very possible to overtrain, and a lot of people do this. You see this a lot with endurance athletes. A lot of endurance athletes, all they do is run. All they do is bike. All they do is swim. They don't get any variation, so their body never really gets a chance to grow and improve, okay? So that's another aspect of recovery, why recovery is important. 2 things, okay? You don't want to overtrain, And growth happens during the recovery phase, not during the working phase. Okay, just remember that. Growth happens during recovery, not during the working. Working is what tells your body it needs to grow, it needs to be able to do more the next time. But it can't do that if you're still working. You have to give it time to rest and recover, and then you can go back and you should be able to perform better the next time. Okay, so 2 reasons why recovery is important. 5 things that you can do to help improve your recovery, improve your ability to reduce your injury risk, to reduce the amount of time you have to take in between doing exercises to feel better after workouts or any physical activity, and just in general to enable yourself to do more things more often without feeling beat up all the time. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so the first thing, when you're doing movement, whether it's in the gym, whether it's in your backyard, whether it's playing with your kids, cleaning up the house, whatever it may be, do the movements as properly as possible. Oftentimes, the soreness that people feel after activity is not from the activity itself. It is from improper execution of the movements in that activity that cause mild injury that takes time to heal before they can do that activity again. So it's not even a system issue. It's an improper movement issue that causes damage that needs to be healed before they can do something again. So from that perspective, it's not really recovery, it's prevention of injury in general by moving properly. Learn how to move properly and you'll be able to do more frequently, more often, and have more fun and get more out of what you do. Okay, when you move properly, you're using the right muscles, you're putting your joints in a safe position, and you're doing things the way your body wants to do them. You're not forcing your body to compensate and do things out of order or out of whack so that you cause problems and then you can't do stuff because your back is sore all day, right? If you're bending down to pick things up and you're not using your legs and your hips and you're just bending at the back, your back is going to be sore for a couple of days afterwards. That's got nothing to do with the fact that you were bending over. That's the fact that you were bending over improperly. Okay? So doing things properly can help recover from a realistic standpoint of being able to do more things more often. Okay? So that's number 1. Variation. I talked a little bit about it a second ago. Variation is really, really key when it comes to progression overall, but particularly in recovery because it does 2 things. It gives you a break. When you change up what you're doing and you give your one system a break so you can work on another system, you give that system a break, you can work on another system. There are a million, okay? I've done the math and it's in the formulas that I've seen. I've stopped at like 4 million combinations of things that can be put together for physical training programs, okay? There are literally millions of different ways that you can do things to improve your quality of life and fitness, all right? There is never an option, there's never a reason to always do the same thing, okay? You can do cardio, keeping it at a high level. Let's not even get into specific movements. You can do long cardio, right? Long, slow cardio, go run for 3-4 miles on one day. You can do heavy weightlifting the next day. You can do mobility work and yoga the next day. Then you could do maybe a shorter, more high intensity HIIT session the next day. And then maybe at the end of the week, you go for another long run, right? There's combinations of things that you can do that will progress you in one aspect of fitness every single time without overdoing any single one of them, okay? That's where variation is really, really cool because it allows you to rest, but also there's never a lack of things to do, okay? That's 2 things. So proper execution and variation. The third thing is, surprise, surprise, eat more protein, okay? When it comes to recovery, when it comes to physical activity and us doing things to improve and build our bodies, that cannot happen. You can't go through that recovery and that super compensation to perform better unless you have more things in your body to build your muscles, build your lean mass that can give you the building blocks and materials that you need to get better. So one of the things that you need to do, particularly if you're starting a training program, resistance training program, something like that, where you're working your muscles. If you're telling your muscles that they need to get bigger and stronger, then they need the materials in order for that to happen. So you need to be eating more protein. It's that simple. If you don't have that protein, your body's not going to have what it needs, and it's going to take longer to recover. It's going to be asking for food, and it's going to be asking for materials and asking for resources that it won't have. Okay? So keep that in mind. More protein. Along the side of more protein, what we want to do is we want to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is a killer when it comes to recovery. Okay? Working out is a stress. It is a stressor on the system. It generates inflammation. We don't need additional information coming from our lifestyle, what we're eating in particular, okay, to be in the body, because now we've got multiple sources of inflammation that our body has to contend with. The more we can reduce the inflammation of things that we're putting in our mouth, the less our body has to work overall to manage that inflammation, and it makes it easier to recover and repair from the inflammation caused by our exercise. Okay, I see this all the time in people, particularly people that go super low carb or go carnivore when it comes to working out. I'm a perfect example. I went from working out 3 days a week and feeling like I got run over by a bus every single week to going carnivore, and within several months, I was able to work out 5-6 days a week and not feel like I got run over by a bus at all. I could actually go 6 or 7 days a week if I felt like it. Okay, so the ability to reduce your overall inflammation is key when it comes to doing things that you can improve your recovery. Okay, reduce what you put into the inflammation caused by what you eat, and your body will be able to handle the rest of it much, much better. Okay, and then the last thing goes along with reducing inflammation, but it also goes along with recovery in general, in that sleeping is a time of rest. Sleeping does two things. It reduces inflammation and it increases your body's ability to build and grow and repair. So the more sleep you get, the faster and more productive your recovery times are going to be. Sleeping is the primary time that your body uses to recover and build muscle. If you are not getting enough regular sleep, you are going to have a hard time gaining mass. You are going to have a hard time recovering from workouts and activity. Okay? Sleep is key. Testosterone, IGF, all of those things, human growth hormone, all of those things go up during sleep, and cortisol goes down during sleep, right? Cortisol, the hormone of stress, you want to call it, hormone of inflammation. Cortisol goes down during sleep. All of the hormones that are all about recovery and growth and building go up during sleep. And then when you wake up, they kind of switch and go back the other direction. So the more sleep, the longer period of time that you can get where all those hormones are that are going to help you grow and feel better, the better your recovery is going to be, the better your overall progress is going to be, because you'll have more anabolic processes in effect on a day-to-day basis, which means growth. Okay. Like I said, lean mass, everything else happens from there. Okay. So that's really it, guys. Quick and dirty. If you want to improve your recovery, if you want to be able to do more on a day-to-day basis and not feel bad and not feel sore and achy all the time, then you want to make sure you're moving your body well. You want to make sure that you're not always doing the same thing. Get some variation. You want to make sure that you're eating enough protein. You want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to reduce additional inflammation, primarily from what you're eating. And then fifth, you want to make sure that you're getting enough good sleep so that your body has an optimal time to grow and repair. All right, that's it for recovery, guys. If you have any questions, as always, just ask. I love talking about this stuff. This topic came from one of the YouTube lives that I did. Somebody asked a question, so I'm always up for making videos. Ask questions, and we'll see if we can get them answered on here. All right, take it easy. Talk to you soon.